Right, thanks for that, everyone. Just looking for questions and answers now. If anybody's any questions, please publish them in the chat and we'll do our best to give you an answer. But I guess I'll just kick off with Eugene. I can't see Eugene on camera, but I assume he's there somewhere. There we are. Hi, Eugene. Are you on mute? I want to come back to Eugene. Sorry, so I mean, generally I guess it's for the whole panel actually. I mean, how have you found networking during this difficult period, you said? And have you got any tips or tricks, or what do you think works well? We'll start with Jenny.
Sure, yes. So I think everybody's had this same experience where previously, for me certainly, when we were in physical events, I would be if you know you get the you're at an event for an association and you get the invitee list in advance, I would be taking that invitee list, going onto LinkedIn to look for everyone's faces and then trying to catch them at the coffee table at a physical event. And obviously that can't happen anymore. So now, obviously, it's a game changer having virtual networking, but there are actually also pros. So, for example, I think the tips and tricks that I think would be helpful are, like, for example, when you sign into Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever it is, always put your company name in brackets after your name. So, for example, a lot of people are asking questions. You see everybody in the attendee list, and it's just sort of like Bob Smith, but nobody knows where he works. So just sort of putting where you work there is going to help get your company sort of up there, get a bit of recognition. Then I guess also where you can differentiate yourself in some ways is to try and raise your hand and
yeah, I think Jenny, you're breaking up quite a bit today. Jenny, you're breaking up quite a bit there, so I'm going to cut you short. I'm going to ask a similar thing to Nick there, if I may. So Nick,
so I think my top tip is when you join an organisation is just throw yourself in with both feet. You know, I think that's much easier to do in this digital environment, and to follow on to what Eugene was saying about Causeway being an open and collaborative and engaging network. I've certainly found that some of you people on this particular webinar may have been attending our digital construction skills one that we're doing in partnership with Causeway, and it's been a fantastic experience, and just working with new people and working on new platforms has helped generate some interesting conversations away from the normal day-to-day. While Eugene and I are looking for speakers at events, we're also starting to talk about modern methods of construction and so on. So just throw yourself at both things.
So basically, did you...
Oh, still bad there, Jenny.
I am now managed to get on.
Ah, Eugene.
Hi, sorry about that.
Yeah, we've got some technical difficulties today, it seems. So, I mean, Eugene, what's the breakdown in terms of the membership for Causeway between Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Ireland? Is it an even split, or how does that work?
It has a majority of Scottish businesses at the minute, partly because Causeway originated in Scotland, so it's been more sort of actively involved. Now, a lot of those businesses are businesses that have operations within the Republic of Ireland or in Northern Ireland, and many in the UK and England as well. And our membership with BITA sort of encourages that. We have about 20 current members in Northern Ireland, but we also have members in the UK that are interested in getting into Northern Ireland. So that provides opportunities for partnerships and sort of conversations in that sort of broader context.
Okay, and what are your tips for networking?
Well, as I sort of said at the beginning of my presentation, you never quite know what's going to happen with networking. And in some respects, you can be very, very focused, and you're only ever chasing one person or the ideal person in the room. And if anything, Causeway is encouraging a sort of talk to everyone in the room, and it is amazing to find what your connections can be and the opportunities that come out of that. So it also, I think, takes time. You know, one of the feelings we've had with Causeway is people think, oh, I'll become a member of Causeway and I'll win this, £1 million contract in 6 weeks' time. It's not really how it happens. You start to make the connections, and I think Nick's piece very clearly highlighted that sort of patience of building that network, the time it takes to do it. You know, there are undoubtedly sort of dead alleys, as it were, in the process. But, you know, equally so, there are opportunities, and you can steer it, and you can promote, and you can get as much out of it as you put into it, really.
Yeah, I think to follow on from that point, Eugene, I think our industry it tends to be a lot slower than some of the others, just because of the way a building goes together.
Oh, still got you, Nick. Some technical issues.
Yeah.
Okay, right, carry on.
I know what you mean, Nick. And I suppose lots of other industries move in a slightly faster world than ours.
Yeah, I see a question in the sidebar here, sort of directed at me about advanced manufacturing, trade associations, and things like that. I mean, build offsite is great. It's, you know, it can take time to get things to move because people are still averse to offsite and modern methods of construction. But equally, other useful ones within the construction sector include Construction Products Association, all of the institutes, civil engineers, quantity surveyors, mechanical engineers, etc. You know, there will be an institute that represents your profession. RIBA, I'm sure, Eugene, you've got some good anecdotes there. But I think finding your niche can take time. So if you know people that are members, always say, look, is there any chance you could get me along to a meeting, or are you having a dinner soon that I could attend? And just sort of suck it and see. And if you meet the people there and you don't think there's going to be anything in it for you, then don't join. But you know, try and see if there's a suck it and see option, I think is another recommendation.
I mean, I feel certainly at Causeway, people are very quick to say, you know, I'd really like to meet that person, or there'd be, you know, the openness to request that introduction, and we're very keen to provide those introductions. And the reason we're there is to meet people, and it's very upfront and straightforward in that respect.
Yeah, so I've got another one here saying, so someone's saying you haven't really mentioned social media networking platforms like LinkedIn. What's our take on that? I guess.
Certainly, Causeway is very active on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. Not me doing that much of it, I have to say. But that, and we have quite a lot of people in our sort of LinkedIn group for the organization. So within that, you in itself are starting to see or find people who know people, as it were. And then you can sort of get that introduction. It's also, I find, quite powerful if I'm doing something from my own sort of business perspective. If you're connecting that to Causeway, you can quite quickly broaden that audience. Yeah, I think it's very effective. It very much works for some people, less so for others. You got to choose the medium that works for you, really.
Hi there. Can you go on, Nick?
I was just going to say with LinkedIn, I think the thing that's important to remember about LinkedIn is just liking something doesn't really raise your profile. The only people that can see that you've liked something as you and the person that's commented, whose comment you have liked, if you reply to their comments, that gets it out to both of your networks, and it shows that you're proactive and have an opinion, whether they agree with it or not, but is more likely to create conversation. Just hitting a button that says like does nothing. It's like attending a conference and not talking to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, there are some very good courses, and Construction Scotland Innovation Centre runs some very good courses on how to actually use LinkedIn properly, and you can make quite a big difference by understanding some of those subtleties of the way the software operates.
Yes, totally agree with Eugene, and those courses will cover it all. Sort of little things that I find some of our companies that post really interesting articles get liked by target companies and clients that they're looking at. So for example, one example is C-Sense. They posted some data on International Women's Day, on female cyclists, and I know that sort of the people that liked that, their network, so I liked that, and then some people in my network contacted C-Sense to say, this is actually something that your solution is something that we're looking at. So I think definitely posting information that is in your space, thought leadership type articles, and then again, as Barry and Nick said, expanding your reach to try and get up the algorithms of LinkedIn, etc. Very, very useful indeed. I don't know if you can hear me there. Hopefully.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. I think we've lost Charles now, so he's back. He's back.
Wonderful connectivity, everybody, this afternoon.
Yes, it's not great today. Good thing we're not selling broadband. But yeah, I mean, I guess my only take on social media is, yeah, as Nick said, you've got to make it relevant. You've got to keep it regularly updated. You've got to tell a story. I think in terms of kind of networking contacts blindly, it can be a bit difficult. I think some people are very saturated right now. But I think, obviously, if you join an organisation, then people have already said, I am up for networking, so the fair game in a way. It has its place. Got a question from Andrew Usher. Eugene, is the offline element of Causeway mainly Belfast centre?
When you say offline, you mean actually meeting face to face?
I assume so, yeah, when we're back meeting face to face again.
Well, it has historically been more Scotland based. We have held events in Belfast and in Dublin, and primarily in Glasgow and Edinburgh in a sort of Scottish context. And it is, again, very responsive to the sort of members' demands. The notion of being able to organise an event where we all meet up just seems so attractive at the moment. And I think one of the things about that is what is the nature of that event. It can be a very casual gathering in a social gathering. It can be a breakfast in somebody's office that's hosted on a particular topic. And Causeway is quite happily to support its members to promote that type of thing and some of the organising of it. Or it can be quite a big organised event with 100 people. One of the ones we did actually just slightly over a year ago was in Murrayfield, and it was in relation to the whole procurement process. So they can be very responsive. The minute they're very Scotland based, because the majority of people who are sort of actively are Scotland based. Charles, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you either, Charles.
Yeah, I'm there. More technical difficulties. Sorry, I'm not seeing any more questions in the sidebar basically. So last orders for any questions. Quick roundup. Jenny, are you back with us now?
Connection, but thanks everyone.
Yeah.
just obviously with everybody has friends, everybody's important, everybody has the next job. So just, I think that would be my final thought of the day.
Right, brilliant. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up. We've had some issues today, but thanks everybody for attending today. We hope you found a lot of it useful and given you some food for thought. Thanks to Eugene from Causeway for supporting the event. And without further ado, we're going to conclude the webinar. Thank you very much.